Rock Island Arsenal is an active U.S. Army facility located on a 946-acre island in the middle of the Mississippi River. It is our nation's largest government-owned and operated arsenal. There are two cemeteries on the island, the Rock Island National Cemetery with 24,000 graves and the Confederate Cemetery with 2,000 grave sites. But today we're going to visit the Rock Island Arsenal Museum's collection of firearms.
Good morning. We're at the Rock Island Arsenal Museum. My name is William Johnson, and I'm going to give you a quick tour of the facilities. This map layout shows the layout of Arsenal Island and the buildings here on the island from construction days to final completion. And to take you back a little bit, the first buildings that were built here at Rock Island Arsenal were started in 1867. Prior to 1867, during the Civil War, there was a Confederate prison camp here. And so prisoners are housed here until 1865, or from 1863 to 1865, and then in 1867, we got the buildings erected, or at least got a start on them. And here's what Rock Island is famous for, is our large small arms collection. And our small arms go down this wall and then over a ways. There's more than 1,200 weapons on display and another 800 in storage. These are the American-made handguns in the collection here at Rock Island. And as you can see, they cover several different periods. They weren't actually made here. I need to make that clear. They weren't actually made here, but they make up the collection for the museum. Okay, one of the well-known weapons here at Rock Island is the M16. I don't know how many people know that the M16 rifle was actually prototyped here at Rock Island. An agency, Rodman Lab, was in charge of small arms and testing and so forth. So that came up to here as to making this weapon for the Army. And all the prototype work was done here at Rock Island. And Colt eventually got the contract. But all the prototype work was done here at Rock Island Arsenal.
On the Moline-East Moline border, along the Mississippi, I located the Celebration Belle, a stern-driven boat available for river cruises.
Hi, I'm Susan Yarlum with Celebration River Cruises. We are a non-gaming riverboat, and we are here on the Mississippi River. We're an 800-passenger vessel, and we're the largest passenger vessel on the upper Mississippi River. Our owners are Joe and Scott Shadler, and we've been in business for 28 years, and we are a family-owned business, and we do several different cruises on the Mississippi River. What's nice about our vessel is that, again, we are an 800-passenger. We can sit down 600 people. We are a 4-deck vessel. We can sit 300 people on each deck. Then we have a 3rd deck, which has a gift shop area and a jewelry outlet and outside seating. And then the 4th deck is completely open with tables and chairs, and then you can also visit the pilot up in the captain's house. All of the food is freshly prepared right on board. We have 2 galleys on board, and so it's freshly prepared all throughout the day. All of our cruises have live entertainment, except for if the narrated cruise is the captain's narration, which gives the history and so forth of the Mississippi River and the area around here. We offer several different cruises on the river, which is great because we have an all-day cruise, which goes from the Quad Cities to Dubuque, Iowa, or you can board in Dubuque and come downriver. We do 4-hour theme cruises, which include big band, classic oldies, Broadway show tunes, Oktoberfest. We're doing a new Mardi Gras this year.
Hotel Blackhawk opened in 1915 during an economic boom in Davenport history. It was the in place during the Roaring '20s, the extravagant '30s, and the great movie era of the '40s. It's where the elite clientele came to frolic. Guy Lombardo, Cary Grant, Jack Dempsey, and even presidents such as Herbert Hoover and President Nixon stayed here. After 18 months of extensive renovation, the hotel is again the pride of the Quad Cities.
Hi, my name is Gretchen Small, and I'm Program Director for the Butterworth Trust, which funds the Deere-Wyman House and the Butterworth Home. The Deere-Wyman House was built in 1872 by Charles Deere, John Deere's son. We do guided tours by appointment Monday through Friday year-round, and each tour takes about 45 minutes. When you visit the home, you see a typical Victorian-style home of the 1870s, designed by William LeBaron Jenney, who was a well-known architect out of Chicago. We tour the first and second floor, where you see about 90% of the furnishings are original to the Deere family that lived here from 1872 until 1976. Here at Deere-Wyman, the main library looks very much as it did by 1900. We have a wonderful pipe organ. When we visit over at Butterworth Center, you'll see another pipe organ which is still in working order. It was restored a couple of years ago. But in here you see that the family loved to read, and the portraits of Charles Deere above the fireplace and some of the other family members. Back in 1884, when this bust was carved, you wanted to look like the most famous and wisest men of the past, so he looks a little like Caesar, but it's definitely John. The dining room here at Deere-Wyman House is my favorite room. It was redecorated in the late 1890s in the early Art Nouveau style, where you have original wall covering, hand-painted and hand-stenciled.
And it has a seat?
No, it's a little table. Folds up and...
Show us this?
Sure. So that way you can, if you have things to haul up and down the stairs, you can set it there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And how many floors does that go?
It goes from the basement all the way to the 3rd floor.
Oh, okay.
And
bring supplies up if you need.
Right. And I know it was in by 1899 because that was the year that there was a fire in the house. And I found a newspaper article that talked about the fire, and it said that night one of the family members accidentally fell down the elevator shaft. The glass broke and they fell down the elevator shaft. They weren't. I was excited because that meant the elevator had to be here in 1899.
Let's see what it looks like with the door closed.
Sure. Do you want the gate shut too?
The gate?
Yep. You got to have both to make it operate. Both have to be shut.
I've ever seen an elevator with a regular house door on it before. That's a first.
Yeah. Butterworth home, built in 1892 for William and Catherine Butterworth. Catherine was the granddaughter of John Deere, and William Butterworth became president of Deere & Company in 1907. They added extensively to their home to meet their entertaining needs, and we see the original home remodeled in 1909 and 1917, and some of the original furnishings. The organ here was added in 1909. I can play it if you want. We've got a player attachment to it, and I can get the key inside the organ room. The dining room here at Butterworth Center was remodeled in 1925 in the Adamesque style, and so the plasterwork is original and the color scheme. In this room we have quite a bit of original pieces belonging to the Butterworths: the main dining room table and the sideboards and the chairs along the walls. The table, if you put all the leaves in, will seat about 26. Or you can take it down to the size to seat 4. The library was added on to the home in 1917, and the reason it's an 8-sided room is that when the Butterworths were deciding to build the room, they received a call from an art dealer in New York who had just returned from a buying trip in Venice, Italy. While he was in Venice, he stayed at the Hotel Danieli, which is still a 5-star hotel today in Venice. But in one of the ballrooms, the art dealer discovered an 18th century ceiling painting on canvas. He bought the painting from the hotel, brought it back to the States, and then sold it to the Butterworths. The Butterworths then had to have their architect design a room to fit the shape and size of the ceiling painting. So we ended up with an 8-sided room.
Let's turn back to Bettendorf, Iowa, where we see one of Quad City's largest employers, the Alcoa Company. And on to the fabulous family museum. Oh, this is not your typical static museum with white walls and immovable paintings hanging on them. This is a hands-on, fun place where kids of all ages can learn and be entertained. This turned out to be one of my most memorable places in the Quad Cities. How about watching a tornado form right before your eyes? The sound walk projects a series of colored circles on the floor, and by stepping on them in sequence, one can play the melodies of many songs. wacky mirror room is especially popular with the kids, particularly if they like to show off a little. If you want to experience psychedelic shadow box shapes, enter the split image room. I'm in here with my video camera. Can you make out my shape as I record this segment? You want to see how sand dunes and snow drifts are formed by the wind? Use the fan in this machine to create them. How about walking through a beating human heart? In downtown Davenport, I found the River Music Experience, a non-profit organization which allows people to enjoy and learn about American music, especially that of the Mississippi River. One can enjoy lunch here while listening to local musicians. The organization offers programs to nurture, educate, and inspire musicians and music listeners.
I'll grab us a table right here.
Playing like the ball was getting lonely, looking around for just the same. You know I kept on doing wrong, could take none of the blame. Our families are just the same. You can't tell them apart, no. And when you got something like we do, you know that's a good start. And I'll give it to you so much more. To give you so much more. To give you, and I'm gonna give it to you. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to you.
In the early days of jazz, the early jazz musicians from New Orleans got here first basically by boat and was part of the great migration of the music up the river. Davenport has always been a crossroads for blues, jazz, country music, and we have a very rich musical tradition here.
The boat is a model of the SS Capital riverboat. It used to be the flagship of the Streckfus line, of the famous river boats that went up and down, carrying the early jazz bands from New Orleans up here. Louis Armstrong played on the real SS Capital in Fate Marable's orchestra. and came to Davenport on numerous occasions where a young Bix Beiderbecke saw him play, and they became mutual admirers. This is a unique piano that we had gifted to us by the Butterworth Foundation and Butterworth Home in Moline. This piano was built in the early 1900s. It's a unique double grand piano with a keyboard on each end. It was made by the Pleyel Company in Paris, France. It's supposedly one of only 6 remaining in the world, and we are trying to get it restored so the performers can actually use it here. It's a unique world-class acquisition for us. The piano formerly was owned by a lady who lived in Bettendorf, and her husband used to play piano concerts for 2 players at the same time, because it has a keyboard on each end, and they would have guest pianists in from all over the country. These folks are our 5 Quad City legends, and they all have roots here in the Quad Cities. From left to right is Francis Clay, was from Rock Island. He was Muddy Waters' drummer. The great Louis Bellson from Moline, considered the greatest drummer in the world, passed away a couple years ago and did his last show here in the Redstone Room. In the center, of course, is Bix Beiderbecke, born here in Davenport in 1903 and died in 1931. One of the legends of the 1920s jazz. Pat Patrick from East Moline passed away a few years ago. He was a renowned saxophone player. Played with Sun Ra Orchestra, all of the jazz greats. And the only remaining Quad City legend who is still alive and comes back and plays for us every year is Bill Bell, the jazz professor. And he's also from East Moline.
Cool.
Jimi Hendrix played here in Davenport at the Call Ballroom in 1968. Almost a year to the date before he played at the Great Woodstock Festival. That's actually his wah-wah pedal from that concert. As many people in here as 280 capacity standing room only. We've had top rock performers in here, as well as the best in local and regional entertainment of all genres: jazz, blues, country, bluegrass.
And by the size of those speakers, this place really rocks.
Yeah, but it's a controlled sound system. It's a Nexo sound system, which is calibrated to the room to where there virtually isn't a bad seat in the house, no matter if you're sitting in the front row or all the way in the back. The screens here used to be the river wall, and of course the bar area wasn't here. This was all one big room, and people would stand at stations here that resembled a ship's wheel with an electronic magic wand, so to speak, and they would point at each screen and click, and that would open a video or play a song or open another part of the presentation of the content, which is now on the airport.
Welcome to the Davenport St. Patty's Day Parade!
The St. Patrick's Society, Quad Cities, sponsors the annual Grand Parade, which is the only interstate St. Patrick's Day parade in the country. It begins in Rock Island, Illinois, crosses the Centennial Bridge into Iowa, and ends in downtown Davenport.
All right, now, in the case we find halfway swim. Okay? Halfway swim. Halfway swim. Halfway swim. Halfway swim. That's right.
Well, that's it. That's our show from the Quad Cities on the Mississippi River. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and until I see you again on the next Let's Visit show, this is your host, Dave Welsh, saying au revoir.